Hello everyone and welcome to the ups and downs for the season finale, which sounds bonkers saying that, of the third season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. It feels like not that long ago that we were all sitting there hoping that season 3 would arrive, season 3 would arrive, season 3 would arrive, because it took so long, and then it did, and then as it always does, it flew by. Absolutely flew by. It has been 10 weeks of discussion, of some pretty strong feelings, some pretty ambivalent feelings, and still, as it always does, a lot of enjoyment along the way as well. We are going to, in fact, next week, do a full season overview, ups and downs of season 3. So do keep an eye out for that, because have things aged well? Have things aged badly? Do we have new context? We will get into all of that next week. But before we can do that, we need to talk about the season finale, New Life and New Civilizations. So why don't we hop to it then?
Hi, I'm Duncan Relic, no relation, and by now you know I collect relics from before the burn. From the halls of Kronos to the alleys of Romulus, I get my relic news out there. But Starfleet has started to geo-block my work. Thankfully, Surfshark is here to help. If you head to the link in the description of this video, you will be able to see what Starfleet doesn't want you to know. Surfshark VPN can help you gain access to 3,200 different servers with over 100 different locations, helping you stay ahead of the geo-blocking that keeps me from getting the truth to you. Surfshark VPN also keeps you safe from those suspicious Federation Section 31 bugged public Wi-Fi networks, so you can browse my content with pure peace of mind. Go to the link in the description of this video and use TrekCulture at checkout to get 4 extra months free with purchase. That plus a 30-day money-back guarantee and 24/7 support service, and you know you're in safe hands with Surfshark. Sign up today and you can be a part of the Reddit club with me, Duncan Relic. Remember, if it ain't a relic, it ain't a relic. No relation.
I don't care, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing the ups and downs. I'm not doing it. I'm not ready for the season to end. But I'm not waiting another 2 years for season 4. Can I play with the puppet though? As the episode begins, thankfully, we get a nice captain's log informing us that Battel is going to take over the Judge Advocate General's office. She's going to be the head of the Justice Department. Good for her. You know what? Battel's had a bit of a journey, season 2 and season 3. And in a season that was maybe a little bit disjointed, she is one of the through lines. Her journey leading up to this episode has been something I've generally enjoyed following. Melanie Scrofano has been really, really good in this show because she is also one of the few original characters. So in a way, she's had a bit of a harder job than some, similar to Melissa Navia as Ortegas, in that, you know, they've no kind of history to fall back on. La'an, totally new character, but there's still that Noonien Singh thing, where Ortegas and Battel are totally new, totally invented, and I've really enjoyed getting to know her over these last 3 seasons. Possibly be the last episode we see her in though, but shall we jump in? She is absolutely knackered when she arrives because she has been training. She's delighted to see Pike. She does ask, however, if we can do nothing for the next 72 hours. And have they started cloning Starfleet officials yet? Well, maybe not officially, but might revisit that one in the Citation observations at the end. Because, of course, she wants to have a bit of downtime and relax, naturally, we're going to a party, and I'm giving an up for the goodbye party here. It's a nice way to kick off the season finale, but it's also a nice reminder that even though her arc has been in this whole season, she hasn't maybe been in every episode, and even then she's been she was surprisingly in what is Starfleet. It's like, oh, there she is at the very end. This is the crew that we've seen her with the most. Yes, she was commanding the Cayuga, but it's really the Enterprise crew that she's bonded with. It was just kind of lovely to see them getting together to wish her well. We've all had a situation where I don't want to go out, and then you get there and it's like, okay, but it's actually quite nice to see you all. Also, this was a fashionable scene. Everyone is looking absolutely fantastic in this scene. As is Scotty. Up. I enjoyed the callback to Children of the Comet, but frankly, how good does Scotty look in that full dress tartan? You know, we saw it in Wedding Bell Blues, we're seeing it here again. Martin Quinn. Always nice to see Sam Kirk again, and there is one thing. I'm going to put it in here now as a down, because I kind of don't really know where to do it the rest of the episode. So down, La'an and Ortegas. And this is something that we were talking about last week. The way that episode ended, obviously it's quite sudden, and then we do get that scene with Ortegas and Uhura, but what we would have liked is to have seen something, just something between Ortegas and La'an, sort of addressing, not that I think La'an should be in the doghouse or anything like that, that's not what I want, but as Ortegas says, the Gorn was my friend, La'an is my friend, and that's something I'm going to have to reconcile. And this is the sort of drawback to the episodic, is that, guess you reconciled it then. So it was a down that isn't picked up on or isn't addressed or anything here, it's just very much, oh, that was last week. And it is a bit of a downer for me. The other context of the scene is that Chapel is going to nip out because she is expecting a subspace call from the great Irishman himself, Roger Corby. And they do talk about in the room how long distance can be challenging. I know. Both of my partners live in different countries, so I understand. We do get one of Pelia's Pelia-isms. Challenging, schmallenging. It worked for me this week. But what really worked for me is, let me remind you of a time that I spent with a time-traveling doctor. Up! And I mean, come on now. I think we're pretty much confirming that Doctor Who exists in this universe. Certainly the Doctor does. We saw the TARDIS in episode 6, and now there's a time-traveling doctor that Pelia spent time with. Do you know what? It feels like a payoff of a long game. Russell T Davies and Alex Kurtzman did their friendship panel at San Diego Comic-Con in 2024, sort of teasing us all that we would get... No, let me phrase that better. Not teasing us that you definitely would get crossovers, but more kind of making sure we knew that they wanted to do crossovers. It feels like this season has been a little bit of a payoff for that. Now, those of you who obviously watch Who Culture as well will know things like in Space Babies, the first episode, well, the first series episode of Ncuti Gatwa's 15th Doctor, they talk about going to visit those guys when talking about Star Trek and transporters. Then also in the most recent season, the Interstellar Song Contest, one of the props is literally built around a Borg cube. So this to me is completely and utterly deliberate, confirms we're all in the same universe, and wait till you see Who Culture and TrekCulture get meshed together now into one channel going forward. Somewhere in the universe, two separate managers just went, sorry, what? We get the first little tease that something's going on with Battel when Spock says Kali Kachna, which is the phrase they heard on Vadian 9. Well, apparently Corby says that has been heard on the planet of Sky Gowen, which is where he currently is. This clearly triggers something in Battel. She then hastens to say, like, well, I don't know it. So is it something unconscious? Is it something perhaps it's going to make her beat the crap out of a nurse across sickbay? Who knows? Over on Sky Gowen, we finally get those objects that were teased in the trailer. The things that basically look like Leviathan from Hellraiser. But what you actually see is that there's gaps in them, and I'm so sorry, the intrusive thoughts were just like, that's a Final Destination opening waiting to happen. It's just gonna go. It can't be just me that thought that. It really can't be just me. All right, okay. Corby is obviously writing a letter to Chapel, and he's talking about how on Vadian 9, which is where they all were, and through the lens of time, there was enough clues there to lead them to this planet. And there is lots of references to the Vzda. Now, the last time we saw the Vzda, it had taken over the body of Nurse Dana Gamble. It had plucked out his eyes, very King Lear of it all, and then had been buffered up into the pattern buffer. So, not very nice, guys, at all. Also, remember, Vadian 9 has been sort of teased as being the homeworld of the Q continuum. Okay. Any kind of crossover or anything there? Well, if you've seen the episode, you know the answer to that. We get a little bit of a dawning thing here. So, Corby is walking around and he's chatting away to people, and everything's wonderful. It's a great hell time, so it is. Except the fact that these people, some of the people, worship the Vzda as gods. Probably not that great of a time. Meanwhile, on the Enterprise, some routine maintenance to the medical transporter elicits, well, first of all, it's a bloody joke from me. They're joking about the Vzda, and Scotty goes, as Pelia would say, we sent them back to hell, up, I'm sorry, I really enjoyed that. And then to which they go like, why would Pelia speak like a vampire? And then it made me think, oh, is that actually Scotty doing an actual impression of Pelia? Is that how he hears her? Because that just makes everything else in the last season so much funnier. If you can imagine that every time Pelia spoke, all Scotty could hear was 1 warp core, 2 warp core, 3. Well, you see where I'm going. I'm sorry, now I'm just lost in that image. I'm a bad presenter. Anyway, some serious things are actually happening in this scene. They are realizing that the Vzda, remember at the end of Through the Lens of Time, the screen sort of flickers a little bit of a, ooh, the end question mark to that episode? Well, Vzda's not there anymore. There's nothing in the pattern buffer. They talk about how the last time it had been purged, and they're like, Mbenga, did you do anything? We get this realization that someone has used the transporter logs to rebuild a human body. Yeah, I actually, in terms of transporters having the technology to do that, absolutely. If your patterns in the transporter, I mean, we've seen variations of this throughout all of Star Trek. Like, there's nothing particularly crazy about that. There is one thing though. The sort of the revelation as Vzda Gamble turns around on the planet is a little bit silly. It's a little bit difficult to take him seriously in that mask. It's he kind of looks like a Power Rangers villain, like, oh, what's Finster pumped out of the villain-making machine this week? Intimidating wouldn't be the word that would come to mind during this, so I'm afraid that is a bit of a down, the revelation. Seriously, I'm getting Lord Zed vibes. He's even got the staff. I did have a question in this scene. They seem to be taking steps to say that the pattern buffer was DNA locked, that it had to be Mbenga that released him. So I thought we might have been going in a bit of a possession storyline. Now, as it turns out, that's not the direction it goes in. That it actually suggests something quite scary, is that from inside the pattern buffer itself, the Vzda was able to reconstruct Gamble and beam a version down to the planet. That is actually quite a frightening idea. That's something I haven't heard of in Star Trek before. Not from inside, effectively inside a transporter being. But it was a bit, maybe it was meant to be a bit of a disconnect, and I'm going to pick up on the Mbenga of it all as we go on. I did like there was one moment where, you know, is that possible? And Spock just goes, oh, I would have said no until this. I like that. Spock, if not admitting he was wrong, suddenly admitting there's stuff he doesn't know. I like that. Very logical. Then there's another one. Corby's emergency transponder went off and then there's no call. So you would imagine, oh, okay, right, Gamble identified Corby and he's in trouble and we've got to warp our way to Sky Gowen. Which they do. It's about 11 hours away, maximum warp. All right, away they go. Jumping ahead slightly, Corby's fine. And like openly fine. Like there's not a hair out of place. Why didn't he ring him? So in my head canon, I think I'm guessing that just basically Gamble blocked communications, I guess? It's a little bit of a, okay. We do get a little bit of a have your cake and eat it, which is Sky Gowen itself is not a warp capable world, but they do engage in interstellar travel. Or at least trade. They are known to trade with Orions and everything, which means basically it's their way of going, we can have a somewhat primitive society which will still worship beings as gods, but we also don't have to change our DNA this week. I actually didn't mind it. As an explanation, it works for me, because then you can still, not to suggest that you must be an undeveloped society to have spiritual beliefs. I'm not suggesting that. I think it's maybe a sci-fi trope. You see it a lot in Stargate SG-1 is particularly notorious for this one, is that they sort of paint a society as a little bit less advanced, which allows them then to sort of dial up the spiritualism. And then once we know that the people of Sky Gowen pretty quickly raise the Gamble Vzda up as a god over them, I think we're supposed to find that a bit easier to swallow. Here in the conference-ready observation room again, Mbenga maintains he has to go on this mission, especially if there's a version of Gamble down there. He feels that they are connected, and he's not the only one. We also have Battel. Now we've gone to the sparring room, which is one of the two sets that is obviously, that costs a lot of money and they're going to use it in every episode. And I'm sort of joking and sort of not. I like the two sets, the other one being the science lab. And she is punching away the punching bag. She is using those cool punching gloves with the deltas on them. I have never punched anyone in my life. Or at least not that anyone would have noticed. But I still want some of those mitts, because, cool. Maybe then What Culture Wrestling will take me seriously when I start to talk about Becky Lynch in Starfleet Academy. Anyway, this scene is a lot of there is no fate but what you make for yourself. It's a little bit Sarah Connor, but not in a bad way. Just Battel going, I feel like I'm supposed to be here, and, you know, do you think the future is set in stone? That's the big question between Battel and Pike. And of course, Pike knows his future. He knows what's coming for him. He knows he's going in the chair. And Battel, up to this point, has accepted that as well. But now she starts to feel like, well, maybe we don't have to. And it's an interesting question, and it's one they were always going to ask. But we sort of did see a version where Pike avoids the accident and therefore doesn't end up in the chair. And it was a negative outcome. But you could also argue it was negative because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Perhaps are they going to toy with the idea of avoid the accident, but leave the Enterprise? We beam down to Sky Gowen and we've got our away party. And I have to say, they're looking great. This is a good episode for looks. Also, Chapel as a redhead. Yeah, I think that's pretty awesome. There is one line though that made me laugh. So they're walking through, it's like, oh, it's very like Vadia 9. Is it? Vadia 9 was a quarry. In fact, it's not really anything like Vadia 9. Do you know what? Right. This season has suffered a little bit from not really planting seeds. This is a sequel to episode 5, right? 100, no problem. This is episode 5, episode 10, sequel to each other. But like, this sort of ties in a little bit what I was saying about Ortegas and La'an not really following through. The old home world revealed by Rhys Darby in Wedding Bell Blues. I have to say, this season has suffered from a sort of lack of seed planting. That's what we're calling it here. It's something that I would like to see them pay off a little bit, or maybe do a little bit better in seasons 4 and 5. You know, introduce things earlier on and have it go somewhere. But not, I don't want to be the guy that says, well, Sean, you wanted episodic. And yes, I did want episodic, and I still want episodic, but it doesn't mean they don't have to tie into each other. But yeah, that was something I felt, because season finale, you know, it's like, right, okay. So I guess we're not doing that then. One thing that is similar is the gateway that they then see two guards standing in front of. And I will say, Rebecca Romaine and Babs Olusomakan are very funny here when they're acting all drunk, just like they did on Rigel, which gives La'an the opportunity to slip around the back of those two guards, and wouldn't you know it, Vulcan nerve pinch. And full disclosure, we had a good laugh behind the scenes where it was like, did they say death pinch? No, because there is no Vulcan death pinch. No, I know that there isn't the Vulcan death pinch, but did she say? No, she said nerve pinch. Sometimes we like to have fun behind the scenes. We really do. What I have to say, honestly, what I thought was quite funny was Chapel's fascination that La'an has mastered it, and the revelation that La'an and Spock mastered that, and they're all about the thumb placement as well. And Chapel said, we never mastered it, but it wasn't for want of trying. And this Christmas I will be looking for a copy of the Vulcan Kama Sutra. Up on the Enterprise, Spock and Pelia and Sam Kirk particularly are talking about this idea of interdimensional space. So, for one thing, Peliaism, I'm picking up what you're laying down, Spock. It just works for me in this episode. It just works for me. I know, because I've been a bit of a grump with other things with her. And we get this kind of funny scene. Scotty describes it as like these ley lines that Sam assures they are real. They move between, in an interdimensional way, between different planets. They're kind of like bus lanes, as Scotty says, and you can take buses between. Now the buses in this case being interdimensional portals, but still. And it's kind of just another type of transport out in the galaxy. Because I got the feeling that initially they were looking at Sam Kirk like he was some sort of conspiracy theorist. Oh, they are real. Bit of a chemtrails thing there, is it, Sam, is it? Then quite quickly it was like, oh no, these are real. Oh, okay. And of course, the problem being then that there's one between Sky Gowen and Vadia 9. What are the odds? And fairness, no, it worked for me. So we have our kind of our ticking clock, because we've got our away team down on the planet. We've got a route from Sky Gowen to Vadia 9. And what's on Vadia 9? Well, a prison full of Vzda prisoners. That's what's on Vadia 9. Meanwhile, down on the planet, Lord Zed, sorry, Gamble is there, chanting along, leading a cult to put out their own eyes. How does that benefit anyone? I don't get cults sometimes. Like, what's the benefit there? Who should be there? Yeah. Why are there only 2 ships in Starfleet? Down. I like Paul Wesley as Kirk. I do like Paul Wesley as Kirk, but why are there 2 ships in Starfleet? And before you come through with the, oh, Sean, they need a favor. Okay, of course. But it's been a few times now. I actually do like that Captain Varel, the Vulcan Captain Varel, via Kirk, says that, well, you saved her life and therefore she owes you one. I'm sure she phrased it like that. But yeah, okay, because again, Vulcans have enough variety that you can very much, well, we've seen Vulcan loyalty time and time immemorial. Spock's gonna show some damn Vulcan loyalty, particularly to Pike in a couple of years, isn't he? But just, it was kind of the, okay, so it's Kirk again. But again, it's not about Paul Wesley. It's just like there are other characters in Star Trek. Down on the planet, they go up to the Final Destination 7. They go up there and they find Corby alive and well and very much capable of using his phone. And they begin to get I've got our orbs position scene. Just a bit of a reminder of the orbs are able to contain the Vzda. They need to use that to, take out Gamble. Listen, it's fine. It's a bit of a previously on. So then we get this portal there in front of us, this big slab of stone covered in writing. Corby lets us know that Gamble tried to access it, but it was no dice. Very quickly then, Uhura recognizes that there is Swahili on the stones. Mbenga also recognizes it, as he says, much like Uhura, it is his first language. You remember our conversation there last week about, what are people actually speaking all the time? Are they speaking Federation Standard, or is the Universal Translator just going all the time? Let us know in a stamped address envelope. And here's where my little bit more confusion of Mbenga kicks in, is that it is not just Swahili, it is literally the story of Joseph Mbenga. And it's written on this stone. To sort of address why I'm confused about it is very on theme for the episode, effect versus cause. It seems to be that in the great wibbly wobbly of time, Mbenga had to be the one to go through the portal with this Vzda Gamble. There is a line where Vzda Gamble says, Gamble, the real Gamble, and Mbenga were so connected that there is now a connection continued onward with Vzda Gamble and Mbenga. And I'm okay, that's fine with me. That's fine with me. Cool. So, who wrote the stone? And would none of this have been able to happen if Gamble didn't go through the portal with Mbenga? Counter argument, would he just have tried something else? So was this a way of making sure Gamble was in the room with the Beholder on Vadia 9? Which it very much could have been. I'm going to lean that way myself, because for me, it's more satisfying if in the grand scheme of timey-wimey tapestry, it was a trap. We needed to get Gamble there. To do that, he needed to go with Mbenga through the portal. And you might be asking as well, why did he have to go through the portal at all? Because back in Through the Lens of Time, you see them, it was all about pairs of two, duality, pairs of two, a lot of duality theme going on. So yeah, because kind of once Mbenga goes through the portal with Gamble, that's sort of his job done. He doesn't really do very much. It was just about getting him there. So there we are. In my headcanon, Mbenga was bait, Gamble took the bait, they went through the portal together, which put them in the right place for the resolution of this episode. All right, okay. Give yourself an up there, Sean. There we are. Just in case anybody was wondering what Battel's role in all of this is, Gamble shoots some energy at the statue of the Beholder, and Battel has a splitting headache. In fact, it splits open so wide the galaxy gets into her eyes. Love the look of her eyes. That was an up from me. I like that they're sitting there. She says, I can see fine. Does that make it any better? And Pike's like, it does not help, because she still looks as though she's got the galaxy in her eyes. The away team beam up to the Enterprise after losing Mbenga. They don't feel there's anything else that they could do down on the planet. And in fairness, you can only look at a stone for so long before you have to be like, right, let's go to the place where all the technology lives. Chapel recognizes her eyes as what she saw on Vadian 9. Is it a bit of a stretch? Sure. Now, Chapel was there. That's why it's like, okay, it's a bit of a stretch, but I'm not going to lose any sleep over it either. She was there, and although I don't remember glowy eyes on the statue, doesn't mean she doesn't. We get the big revelation, some people might have got there ahead of me, that there's a DNA signature to the statue of the Beholder, and as Chapel says, well, nobody checked it, because why would you? It's Battel's DNA. Looks like Battel is the statue of the Beholder. While this is happening, Mbenga on the planet realizes that to go through the doorway, Gamble has to go with him. So the best thing to do is kick Gamble out of the room that he's in, which he manages to do. That's basically the end of Mbenga's role in this episode. Still, it's nice to see him. But yeah, he gets like a line later on. But yeah, he served his purpose as bait. Joseph, thank you very much. The realization scene, the payoff of some of the payoff of Battel's journey. Overall, I have to say I quite like it. I do have to say, down, everyone accepts this a bit quickly, don't they? She's a Beholder, okie dokie. There is a bit of a conversation about it, but it does feel a bit like, we are gone now, season finale as well. We don't have time to do this next week, so let's kind of ramble through it. And Battel, where I want to give credit is Battel's excitement does feel like, finally, I have answers. So even if it is a little bit of a okie dokie, that performance definitely pays off. The Gorn DNA, the human DNA, the Illyrian blood, Spock's research, all kind of combining to make this, let's call it what it is, augment, is likewise bit convenient for the plot. Not to say that this has all just been introduced. Obviously, we've seen since episode 1 of the season this infusion of Illyrian DNA. Like, I'm not saying that that's new, but if, as they go on to discuss, the Vzda are this thing that predates depictions of evil within the galaxy. There was a moment where Sam Kirk is clearly speaking in hyperbole. I've seen this all over the galaxy. Kirk, give them your propulsion secrets. Listen, all the time, I say things like, sure, I've seen millions of them. I probably have not. They come up with the idea, they land on the idea that she is this protector. Spock speaks again about interdimensional space, effect before cause. It's very interesting, and it's quite head-scratchy, and I like it. It's very Star Trek, it's very techno-babbly. Does it make sense? Does dilithium? So I do like how they play it. And there's a moment which is already, I can start to see it being a little bit heartbreaking, where Battel looks at Pike and says, you of all people should understand destiny. Yeah, it's maybe a smidgen sudden for me, but overall, it's an up as well. There's also a great little line. They're speaking about genetic memory, and Spock is talking about how, we have evolved with such senses. Humans can sense predators, like Vulcans can sense the oncoming of an earthquake. All right. Cool, good to know. If I'm ever going on a seismic away mission, I'm bringing a Vulcan. This genetic memory has apparently given Battel all the tools she needs to fight the Vzda. All right. Yeah, that's good. It's good. I'm not exactly sure how and why these species specifically, but just go with it. My last thing on this as to why I'm sort of accepting of this is that she does make the point is that while they're sitting here figuring it out, her biosignature is there. That is there, that has been there. So even if they don't understand it, bit like yours truly, it doesn't mean it's not happening. And I found that again to be quite Star Trek. And I quite liked that. Now, let's go beat the shit out of Gamble, shall we? I liked one of Arthur C. Clarke's laws getting dropped in here, that science so advanced looks like magic. Well, yeah, definitely not the first time I've heard that. I mean, I would have picked that up in the Citation observations. I just really like the line. I did, however, have a bit of a question. So they're talking about activating this portal, right? So Battel and Pike beam down to Sky Gowen, they're walking up, and sure, there's nothing happening with the portal. Right, so what they need to do is they need to activate it, they need a power source. And they come up with, they would need, so Spock says, to generate the power needed, they would need 3.22 times 10 to the 26th watts. I think I got that right. Which is roughly the power of Earth's sun. To which Pelia says, well, a constant or focused phaser blast from a starship could get you about half of that down. The Enterprise can harness half the power of a sun. I mean, there's hyperbole and there's like, no, this is a specific maths question. And then there's the whole talk, of course, we're setting up 2 ships and everything. How have phaser blasts not constantly destroyed? How strong are shields? How strong are the shields on the Duras sisters' bird of prey that we saw in Star Trek Generations? Is anyone else picking up on that? What bloody power do these ships have? Gah! I am with Spock, however. It is fascinating. Scotty gets a great line. Phasers are not additive, but they are complementary. It's a good line. Might get it on a t-shirt. And then, of course, we get the setting up of the stakes. You know, you have to make sure everything is 100% aligned. It's all firing the same way, because if you slip even a tiny bit, that's giant death ray for the Sky Gowens down there. Oopsie doodle, don't want to do that. And the ship's inbuilt safety systems won't allow the Enterprise to basically link up remotely with another starship and have the computer take over everything, and it's all feeling a little bit forced now at this point, isn't it? Really? You're telling me that's okay? Seems a bit like we really need something to happen. So, yeah. What they do is they get the only other bloody person in the galaxy to come for a drink aboard the Enterprise. Down. What do you know of the Vulcan mind meld? This is set in 2261, 2262, right? So this is about 4 years before Kirk, as we know, is in command of the Enterprise. Probably a little bit because we haven't seen his first few missions. That's the entire pitch behind Star Trek Year One. But what we do know is that in the episode Dagger of the Mind, Spock debuts the Vulcan mind meld. And they make a point to say it is the first time he's ever attempted it on a human. Why am I whinging? I am whinging because something that Strange New Worlds unfortunately has become increasingly guilty of is, and we talked about it last week, is that I have no problem playing with canon. I'm really not the guy going, well, actually, I'm really not. What I am is someone who gets a bit annoyed when you make a change to something that retroactively makes something else a bit worse. Dagger of the Mind was, I'm not going to say it's one of the greatest episodes of Star Trek ever made. It's perfectly good, as is a lot of that season. It's good, but there was a moment about debuting that. And here, you're doing a double whammy. Not only are you bringing the Vulcan mind meld further, and it's also not its debut in Star Trek, but think of the relationship between Spock and Kirk here, and a mind meld between them. It feels like this was done for the gag of them, as one piloting and firing. And I don't know, it doesn't sit right with me, because it feels a little bit like, but Spock says, I chose you because you have displayed your ability to kind of, I'm paraphrasing obviously, roll with it. You are able to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations much faster than anybody else. And even Ortegas is there to sort of explain, this isn't about flying. It's not about fancy flying. That you need to be, so in sync, so perfectly connected that, it has to be in mind meld. God forbid you would just link the two computers, right? And it feels so forced, to be honest with you. They just really wanted to have a mind meld. They really wanted to have Spock say, my mind to your mind, to Kirk. Unfortunately, that's really obvious. There is a gag about, look, before you see what happened on the second moon of Orion, please no judgment. And there's sort of the question of, since when can mind melds do this as well? Again, I am all for additions. I'm all for additions to lore. I'm not slavish like that. I'm really, really not. But established mind melds have seemingly not been mind control. And maybe mind control is the wrong description, but this is new. in a show that's old. It plays a bit fast and loose with canon for the gag, and it's my trellium down of the episode. It feels like they're putting it in to be zany. Is this like the new Lower Decks? Do you know what I mean? Is this, just kind of tie into our gimmick talk from the season? It's like, what kind of silly thing can we put in this episode? Maybe. Anyway, now Kirk has had a mind meld on him. What I've no complaint over is how it looks. The Farragut and the Enterprise firing their focused proton beams onto that portal. I think it looks great. It's animated fantastically. I like a split screen myself. We talked about this in the What the Hell Just Happened video. And all that, it works. So that is an up from me. It was in the trailer, funnily enough, now that I think about it. And it was also very nice of Battel to make a cameo as the captain of her own ship, out of focus, sitting behind Kirk. It was also a really nice effect of the clouds burning out of the way as the proton beam hits the back of the portal. That's an up from me. Pike and Battel walk through the portal. And Benga runs around. They're like, oh, we're on Vadia 9. Yes, we are. Hurry, there's no time. Just as Gamble comes back through the other doorway, it's kind of a real kind of horrible, creepy scene. If Gamble's body comes through first and then the Vzda sort of claws its way out through the portal and into Gamble again, it's a bit creepy. There is creepy stuff going on here. And then, bye Joseph, because he gets knocked out at this point. Gamble recognizes what Battel is. And yeah, okay, there's one thing you we have suffered under your wretched eyes. You gotta think for eyes, don't you? Anyway, wretched, down. Pike goes to fight Gamble, and Gamble kind of reminds him very quickly, don't do that. And we get the, you can't hurt him, but he can't hurt me. Yep, I got that. It's very nice of Gamble to just hold back and let them have a conversation. I'm laughing because it's a trope in cinema. You know that if you're in a ring of villains, one person will attack you at a time. That's what cinema does. However, Battel is regenerating. Look at those hands, they're glowing! You can hear Murray Gold's score in the background. You can't, by the way, to people, you can't. But yeah, I thought that was great. It's like, okay, all right, cool. The doctor's in the house, and then, where are we now? I've got a feeling that this sequence, this scene, is going to generate a little bit of conversation. I'm going to tell you up front. I loved it. We're calling it the Inner Light segment of this episode. You have Battel and Pike in Pike's cabin over the period of a few years. First, we're just dropped in, no context, and they seem happy. And they do talk about how they got away from they faced the Vzda, they got away from it. And they're celebrating their second wedding anniversary. I like it because I was feeling they're kind of like, have I missed a scene? Okay, I'm here for this. I'm here for this. Up. I like their discussion of the gifts as well. Pike gets monogrammed, or like, what's the word I'm looking for? Personalized napkins that basically say Battel or Pike. Because he said, we never really had the conversation if you were going to take the name. Will there be 2 Pikes or 2 Battels? And everyone seems quite open to all of these things. She surprises him with an inscribed apron. Chef Pike, I want one of those. Star Trek, are you listening? Yep, merchandising right there. They say that this is a life worth risking things for. And the reference, Admiral April is still trying to convince Pike to train cadets at the academy. He says, well, can't you tell him no? We made a promise to live when we fought the Vzda. Oh my God, his little puppy. Up. The puppy's a bigger good boy. Up. I'm a dog person. They also have a little daughter now, which is a little bit heartbreaking because now you have, in the lovely threads, Admiral Pike, seemingly, has been informed that the Lucas, a Class J training vessel, is awaiting his arrival. And we know that's where the accident is going to happen. There is a fabulous little exchange here where they talk about how they've always known this day would come. But Pike didn't realize how hard it was going to be when it arrived because he didn't think he would have enough to live for. And Battel is lovely. She says, we will be together. You will see our daughter grow up. And Pike, I think, is, as anyone would be if they know they are about to face a very difficult change in their lives. He can tell he's struggling with it. But Battel is just this beacon of kindness beside him. this theme continues of knocking on the door, and the door knocks, and she opens it, and there's Pike. Exactly as he appeared moments earlier, but this is Pike clearly after the accident. But there was no accident. They're sitting outside by a fire pit, and we see a shooting star in the distance. And Pike talks about, I was there, it was the right time, it was the right place, but the baffle plate didn't rupture, there was no radiation. He is also understandably concerned because he knows that there was consequences to him being in the wrong place at the wrong time, as I mentioned, aboard the Enterprise during Equality of Mercy. He's worried that him surviving is perhaps not a good thing, or him surviving as he was is not a good thing. Battel tries to reassure him and says, well, maybe it was the battle on Sky Gowen that gave us another chance. And he says, what do you mean? And she basically says, yeah, I changed things. I was able to open the fabric of reality, and I was able to change things. Pike then voices something that I think is quite understandable, which is, as dark as his future looked for him, he's now concerned because he doesn't know what's coming next. Losing that guide light, as I said, it may not have been a positive guide light, but it was a guide light nonetheless. He now doesn't know what's coming, and they agree, live. That's what's coming. We jump forward again in time. We have Pike with some new hair taken up. We get the revelation that their daughter, Juliet, is now in the Daystrom Institute, and we also learn very quickly that she is engaged to Elijah, Admiral April's son. It's all very lovely. It's all really this is a happy family. This is a happy time. And Pike does hear someone knocking at the door. But it's okay, we're not going to worry about that right now, because she calls him Uncle Sock. Juliet calls him Uncle Sock. Taken up. You've been able to say his proper name since you were 4. Yeah, but he loves his nickname. I'm sure he does. Knock, knock, knock. You don't hear that? Chris, stay here with me. And this is when the penny finally dropped for me. Maybe I was being a bit slow here. This is Inner Light. She is controlling this reality. Stay here with me. And my heart just started to break into little bits. Then we jump forward again, but before we do, we pan by a hallway full of photographs from a life lived together. Crack, 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 crack. They get a full life. They can grow old together. Another shooting star in the distance there. And I'll be honest with you, I've seen a lot worse old age makeup, so I'm not worried about that. Battel says, this is what we were fighting for. He says, I won't really be gone, just look up in the stars and I will be there. Chris, this lifetime was a gift. We both know it. Knock, knock, knock. Answer the door, Chris. Before we get to there, I don't think there's going to be any shock. The whole scene is my Latin up of the episode. For a season where, yes, we have absolutely not loved a lot of the relationships on show, the Pike Battel one has not been one of my issues. Let me just say that right now, but also this was beautiful. This was lovely. This is a hell of a way to give Pike and Battel a happy ending while still working within the rules they've set themselves. Well done, Strange New Worlds. I'm actually glad they don't have a prolonged sort of celestial battle then after this. We got a great light show. Background looks great. All of the hallways of Vadian 9 sort of compressing into one plane. And then basically Gamble realizes, no, I'm screwed. Screwedy, screwedy, screwed. The Vzda, it looks like they're escaping, but Battel doesn't seem phased at all. And she has every right not to be, because she basically just goes, yeah, no. And they're all locked back down in their cell again, as is the Vzda that was inhabiting Gamble's body. We do get, I suppose at this stage, it's a little bit sad that we see Gamble's body, fading and breaking down into nothing. Like, if he wasn't dead before, he's definitely dead now. And she takes her place as the Beholder. There's some dialogue that might be a little bit of Gorgonzola on that there. I am the light you cannot vanquish. I am the Beholder. The love inside me will outshine your darkness. I've written cheesier than that. I'm not going to lie to you. I really have. And she's also Marie Battel. And yeah, I was feeling feelings. You can see Pike is obviously stunned by the end of it, because he's a bit like, there's very little reaction. And initially I was going to oh, okay, just react a little bit. It's no, he's genuinely shocked and stunned. So I'll give him that. We get a little goodbye scene between Corby and Chapel. He's going to stay down on Sky Gowen and learn as much as he can about the people who basically worshipped the Vzda. Now that the Vzda are locked away, the people seem to be coming out of almost a trance. Himself and Chapel talk about how it's never going to be easy between them, is it? There's always going to be something, but that's part of the excitement. He gives her a wee disc of new coordinates and places in the galaxy that they've never been, that he discovered in his studies. So that'll be fun season 4, won't it? We do then get a scene between Kirk and Spock, which is an up from me, which is their game of chess. The first ever scene between Kirk and Spock, all the way back in Where No Man Has Gone Before, the second pilot for Star Trek, was Kirk and Spock, both wearing gold, playing chess. It's a nice full circle moment. You know, they talk about how they've learned things about each other. I remember now that when La'an walks up to Spock and says, "What are you two talking about?" And they both go, "Nothing." And she goes, "Oh, the damned mind meld." There's, you know, clearly there's jokes to be made there about, what does Kirk now know? But also, what does Spock know? What went on at the second moon of Orion? I like it. I do like it. It's maybe not perfect, the introducing this mind meld and everything, but I do like Spock and Kirk being friends, whomever the version is playing them, whether it's Shatner and Nimoy, whether it's Pine and Quinto, and whether it's Wesley and Peck. I'm a sucker for Kirk and Spock, spirk if you will, friendship. They leave this scene on the idea of they will continue their game. Really nice quick shot at the end though. Oh, the Kirk brothers having a drink. We get then a scene that we talked about where we weren't really sure initially how to react, which is the inclusion of the song Wait by M83 over this sort of last montage of Pike in his quarters, deeply shell-shocked, having a drink with Una. I like it. I have to say, I quite like this sort of story, this way of telling a story. And Star Trek, it doesn't always use it's not that it doesn't use modern, but it doesn't always use modern music. I think it works. I think I'll understand if it throws people. I also just like the song. I like M83 as well. Maybe it is that. Maybe I just like M83. Una asks him, "Hey, do you want to talk?" And he says, "Yes, but not yet." Oh. Chapel gets a nice big hug off Mbenga in sickbay because, you know, even though they've not broken up per se, she's still going to be without Roger for a long time, and you know, it's an affecting scene. We get a voiceover from Pike where he says, "Ever since he was a boy, he's hated goodbyes. How can we love people so deeply and then never see them again? Maybe they never really vanish. Maybe Spock is right, and maybe the memory is present, which means the one we love are never truly gone." Up. Pike arrives on the bridge, and I'm going to say this. Pike is clearly deeply traumatized by everything here, so whether Pike should be serving or not is a very different story altogether. But he takes his position on the captain's seat, and Una leans in and says, "Is this a hit it situation?" We look down and we see once again that shooting star over the atmosphere of Sky Gowen. Now, whether you want to say that this shooting star is Battel, or whether it's just one of those great cosmic coincidences, I don't know, but I did like the inclusion of it. And you have Ortegas, as only Ortegas can, saying, "I quite like hit it." You have Uhura turns and says, "Hailing frequencies open, Captain," which is a bit confusing. Who is she calling? But I like the line. And then he says to Erica, "Take us out as fast as you like." And we get a nice new little ripple on the warp effect as seemingly the camera pans through at the end. And away they go off into the distance. No cliffhanger. Up. Would you join me, please, at Citation Observations? Now, we have, can you clone Starfleet officials? Well, I mean, yes you can. Thomas Riker, William Boimler, Evil Kirk. Absolutely you can do that. They got Scotty with the same gag that they got Uhura back in Children of the Comet when she rocked up in her cadet dress uniform as well. That was definitely a Doctor Who reference in there. Time-traveling doctor, I mean, come on, like. We get a reference to Orions being traders on the planet. References, of course, back to the frequent use of medical transporters throughout Strange Worlds up to date, really. Vadia 9, so tying us all back into Through the Lens of Time, of course. Acting drunk like they did on Rigel, the Vulcan nerve pinch that was included there in that scene. References back to the Salot that ate its tail and how Captain Varel's life was saved aboard the Enterprise. Arthur C. Clarke's 3 Laws. Science so advanced it looks like magic. Whether I liked it or not, the mind meld, of course, being a really large Easter egg to all of Star Trek. Orion's second moon. Let's light this candle, which we heard Erica say last week. Whether it was an egg or not, the inner light in this episode. references to Admiral April. The Lucas, the Class J training vessel. By the way, as well, Class J was like the ship that Harry Mudd was on in the original series. The Daystrom Institute gets a shout out. The new blue science cadet uniform is there as well. The whole idea of a captain becoming something of a god. Where have we seen that before? Where is Cisco? The very first scene between Kirk and Spock was in Where No Man Has Gone Before, where they were playing chess. Also a bit of a callback as well to other Kirk's chess aptitude in Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. We will remain friends, and ever shall be. Is this a hit it situation? Just go as fast as you can go. That is everything for our list today, folks. Thank you so much for watching along. Thank you for watching the ups and downs for each individual episode of Strange New Worlds this season. As I say, next week we're going to do a full ups and downs for the season. See where we leave things now, maybe do a bit of a ranking of the episodes. Sure, we'll see how we get on. What is most important is, folks, your support over this season has been wonderful. I think it's fair to say it's been a slightly mixed season of Star Trek. I'm not saying it's bad, it's just been mixed. So thank you for everyone who has been showing up here every single week, giving us a little bit of support, and just generally being awesome. It is noticed. You are wonderful. This is the bit where I say, please make sure you're subscribed. And I do hope that you do subscribe, but it really makes a difference when you do, just as turning up each week makes a serious difference as well. So thank you so much, everyone. Please like and share if you can. Please, if you can, if you want to, grab some merch, you can do so via the link underneath the description of this video. We will be back next week, so it's not goodbye, even though this is the end of season 3. And before you know it, we'll have season 4. Remember, the ups and downs for Star Trek Can are out each week. They will be via our podcast portals. You will find all of those. There should be a link in the description of this episode to the first episode of Star Trek Can's Ups and Downs. I do hope you enjoy that, and please do let us know what you think. I hope you do. It's a new thing for us as well, so I hope you do enjoy that. You are awesome, you are wonderful. I'd even go so far as to call you Star Trek Scouts. I will see you next week. Make sure that you live long and prosper. To everyone out there in the world, please stay safe. Please spread love, spread kindness, and spread peace. Every day we see more and more examples of how peace seems to be a rapidly dwindling thing in this world. Only we can change that. It starts with each one of us, and I know sometimes it feels like that one person can't make a difference. Yes, they can. Yes, you can. Thank you very much, everyone. Our love, our thoughts to everyone in those devastated areas of the world, particularly Sudan, Palestine, Congo, Ukraine. We are together. We will remain together. Thank you very much.